Wine was upset with everything that was going on currently. Her parents, who kept nagging at her for studies, her internship, and her arrogant boss, who was giving her a hard time, and that one boy from her university who kept coming after her to accept his proposal. He confessed his feelings for her, and she rejected politely. She felt bad but couldn't accept someone she had no feelings for. It started getting annoying when he kept coming after her, and then he even forced himself. Of course, before he could touch her, she pushed him away, but the move alone made her so angry. Her friends suggested her to get some drinks and a night out with them and have fun for one night, and she agreed. She couldn't tell them the actual reason, but deep down she still wished that one boy back from her school would come back. That boy with dark, intense eyes, as if the world would burn and they wouldn't even blink. So, here she was, hardly standing on her feet because of how drunk she was. But she still had enough energy to ditch her friends who were on the dance floor, probably distracted by all the hands around them. She really wished to get laid tonight, but there was no one she found attractive enough to consider giving her a good time of the night. It was until an arm sneaked around her waist. As usual, she was going to push whoever it was away, but he was strong. The grip around her waist was unmoving. One look at the arm, and it was filled in black ink with exotic designs. She felt a body against her back. The heat it radiated was warmer than the whole crowded place. And when the voice whispered in her ear, looking for something dull, she shivered. The voice was so deep and husky, it had a hypnotizing effect on her. Wine. Maybe. I'm sure you don't have that. She turned around. Her drunk state was not helping her to think straight either. She took in the appearance of a man almost 8 inches taller than her. He was broad and packed in muscles. He had tattoos on his neck, disappearing under his shirt, sharp and chiseled features that could drive any woman to their knees. He was the one she was looking for, or maybe more than what she even imagined him to be. Jungkook, how sure you are? His grip around her waist got skewered, and he pulled her flush against him. Wine, enough to just walk out of here. But I don't want to go home. She said, where are you going? He smirked. She was playing with him, and he knew how to do exactly the same. Jungkook, exactly where you're going tonight. Wine, then take me with you. She leaned closer, and he didn't take a moment before throwing her above his shoulder and stepped out of the club. He walked towards his Mercedes and got inside, placing her on his lap. The driver was instructed to take them to his home. Jungkook looked down at her, and she was already sleeping in his arms. He have had a lot of girls he took home before, but none of them were like her. None of them forced him to stop himself from touching her without her permission, even if that was all he wanted to do. The night passed by like this. Jungkook let her sleep on his bed. He lay down beside her and questioned his own sanity every time his eyes fell on this girl. When she woke up in the morning, feeling a headache, she still felt so comfortable and warm. It took her no second to realize it was not her room, not her bed, and clearly not her blanket that provided her the warmth. Her eyes shot open when she found a man beside her. He was wide awake, staring at her. Jungkook, good morning. Wine. Who are you? She was confused, still wondering if out of her dumb state, something happened between them during the night. Wait, we didn't get to make our introduction. I am Jungkook. If she wasn't already shocked about the whole scenario, she was now. She almost screamed, but the voice got stuck in her throat. For a moment, she couldn't move. It was the Johns your parents tell you to be away from. In your childhood, instead of telling you fairy tale stories, they gave you reasons why you should stay away from them and how exactly dangerous they are. One, like John from the Mafia world, she curled her fist around the sheets, her mind already thinking about the ways to escape from there. Her answer was clear when he didn't brag about him being one. He was saying the truth, and she almost wanted to scream at herself for being this careless. One, I should leave. She sat up, but she was only pulled back to bed by Jungkook. He tilted his head. There was hardly any emotion on his face, and to be honest, it freaked her out even more. Jungkook, it's rude to leave before even introducing yourself. One, look, whatever happened, it was for a night. I need to go back. Jungkook smirked. Too bad, the girl became an obsession to him within a night. No, only the first sight was enough. He stayed awake hours only to admire her features. She gulped when his grip stayed strong around her wrist. Jungkook, I'm not hurting you, so don't make me. Wine, I don't know what you want. It was a night. I want to live like I am supposed to. Jungkook suddenly hovered above her, pinning her wrist down to bed. She gulped as her eyes fell on his tattoos that went all the way to his chest, as far as she could see due to his shirt hanging down. Juliet, that's my name. She lied, hoping for it to work, but it was the darkness in his eyes that grew even more. Jungkook, are we getting down to lies now, doll? Why, I'm not lying. Jungkook, shall we check your ID? He leaned down, his hot breath fanning against her cheek, and she knew she had no escape. She had no ID with her, but the fact he knew she was lying said a lot about his reach. I am Ryan. Now please. Jungkook left a kiss on her jaw. Unlike last night, when you so dearly wanted me to bring you home. Ryan, I didn't know who you are. Jungkook, that's why you shouldn't agree to go to any man's house, double. Too bad. I already got you here now. Ryan, what do you want? Jungkook licked his lips while staring at hers, and she thought he might want to use her. Jungkook, I want you to be mine. Ryan, What are you talking about? You heard that, he said and picked her up, getting off bed. He walked out of the room and she held his shoulders. Wine, are you going to throw me out? I can go myself. He laughed in response, and she noticed how luxurious his place was. Jungkook stopped in front of the dining table and put wine down on it, standing in between her legs. Jungkook, don't you remember me? Wine, what do you mean? She shivered a little when he rested his hands over her thighs. Jungkook held her one hand, his fingers around hers as he brought it to his neck. He moved the shirt away and she found a huge scar that seemed old, but it was still there. Her eyes widened up and the memories from the past hit her suddenly. Flashback. Wine in her school was like a famous celebrity. She took part in few of the modeling contests that got her the popularity, but she always tried to avoid all of them. She most of the time stayed with her friends like a normal student and focused on her studies. Her life was an active one, filled with noises, people, fun, everything a normal school student faced. But there was this one secret no one knew about. It was this one guy whom she met in the library late at night, by 9 p.m. one day. He was sitting at the farmost corner on the floor against a rack of the books. She didn't know who he was. Now she was able to see his face. His hood and mask covered him. The first time she watched him from afar, for the next few days she would go and sit on opposite side of the rack and focus on her books, not wanting to disturb him. Something about him made her want to have his attention. It continued for almost a month. The boy would never once looked at her or gave her attention until that one night when he was not there. She stood there clueless, looking around, sadness filling up her heart at his absence. Even if he never talked to her, unknowingly became a reason for her peaceful hours. Spending that silent, peaceful time with him brought her heart some satisfaction and feelings she couldn't describe. She put the book back in the rack, not in the mood to read it, and left the library. She never realized how empty school was at this hour of the night. That unknown boy always made her feel some kind of protection without even knowing. She told herself she was not supposed to be this sad, but heart is an idiot, and it was hurting. That night, she got herself in a trouble. She heard some footsteps behind her, and it made her feel so unsafe. She started running and got herself locked in a classroom. It was until whoever it was jumped inside through the window. It was a random student like her, but his intentions were not clear at all. She screamed for help as she tried to move that guy off. It was until that guy in the hoodie stepped in, breaking the door, and threw the other guy off her. He gave him a nice beat up, and in the process, he got a brutal scar on his chest. When his attention went on wine for a moment, Jungkook dragged wine out of there. Once they were away, he turned towards her. She had tears in her eyes as she saw him bleeding, where he was hurt. Wine, you're hurt. She put her hand over the scar in order to stop the bleeding. She had no idea what to do, but this is what they did in movies. Her hand getting filled in his blood. Jungkook, you were not in the library. Wine, I thought you didn't come. Jungkook, why did you wait for me? Always. She was out of words. It was the first time she got to see his eyes. They were so dark and intense, as if the whole world would burn and they wouldn't even blink. He still had his mask on, so when she hesitantly moved her hand near his mask to take it off, he grabbed her wrist, stopping her there. Wine, I'm sorry. Jungkook, I am leaving and probably never returning. Don't wait for me. Don't stay here for too long. It's dangerous. Her heart dropped at the news and her head hung down. How was she even supposed to stop him? With what right? End of flashback. Vine pulled her hand away and turned her face to other side. No matter how much time passed by, she still yearned for that unknown guy. Vine, you left me there. Why are you coming back now, after all these years? Jungkook, I had to. I had my reasons. Vine, sometimes I thought if you left without telling me, it would be easier for me. But you had to be cruel. Jungkook stayed quiet. He wanted to see her one last time before he left. The whole empire fell on his shoulders, and he had to take after his father. He had responsibilities and training to go through. He was not in a condition to take things his way. Jungkook, can't you give me another chance? He held her chin in between his fingers and turned her towards him. Wine, you are him. Jungkook is him. His eyes were the same. They held the same intensity from before. How badly she wanted to embrace him. Jungkook, if you give me another chance now, I'm never leaving you again. She stayed quiet for some time, all those memories and her feelings hitting her so bad. Just how much her heart desired him, and he was standing right in front of her. Wine, I'm going to shoot you myself if you dare breaking my heart again. She threw her arms around his neck and kissed him. He took no second, returning the kiss, and stepped in between her legs, closing the distance. She felt so satisfied yet emotional at the reunion. All the blame goes to her heart, that one unknown guy who made his place in there without her knowing. The void in her heart filled up again, and she didn't know how to handle it so suddenly. Ryan, I'm sorry for acting this way. Jungkook, I'm fine as long as it stays for me. He kissed her temple and pulled her in his embrace. He found her so endearing, and one thing he knew, he was never allowing anyone to hurt her, not even himself.